Spring has sprung, hasn't it? I mean, I'm a little leery to really jump into that because I don't feel like we won't get another cold snap before spring holidays, and that's when I really get comfortable with it. But you look around and see all the flowers that's bloomed and the trees that are budding out and everything. It's really a good feeling, and the days are longer, the times change, and I don't know about most of you men, and some of you can probably agree with me, but spring comes, that's when I begin all my outdoor projects, when I start thinking about building and constructing and what I want to get done, so I sit back toward the end of summer and kind of enjoy. I planted a flower bed on the west side of our house, and really felt good about it. And I couldn't help thinking back in Ecclesiastes, where I read that Solomon said in Ecclesiastes 2, that he built gardens and he built vineyards and he built pools of water to water them with, and he collected singers, male singers and women singers for the tabernacle. He did all these things, and then he sat back and wondered that it was all just vanity to have been doing all these things, but he realized that it was the whole duty of man that we do this and enjoy the fruits of our labors as we do it. Because the next man that comes along won't enjoy the beautiful flowers that we planted. They won't enjoy the decks that we built. And as I've done this year, or the past few years, when we first moved in our place 3 years ago, built a big front deck out there on the end of it, as my wife wanted to have steps going up in the front, and the way we sat and argued about it. And I don't know, I think the work in doing this is easier than the planning stages of it. Because if you're sitting with your wife talking about it, everything changes from what you want to do, and you have to go back and readjust and refigure and rework. The first year was the front deck. Last spring it was a swimming pool, and as we got this up above ground swimming pool, I watched my wife climb up the ladder and down in the water, and I thought, I'm gonna come home one day with her hanging there, broke leg on the ladder, crawling up and in and out of it. So I had to build a nice deck for her to walk up the steps in the water and in and out of it. But not only for her, but for the grandchildren that come over also. And this year it's our back deck, because I've started to work on it and began to start doing and building on it. And as it has been in the planning stages, it started out to be a 12 by 20. It has grown to a 12 by 24 deck as we've started it. So I do what I can to make my wife happy. Welcome to the class. Everybody have a class book, a textbook? We always have our notebook, we're taking notes. This is class, and I have said it many times that in prayer and talked about it off and on, that we come here in class to learn. We come in here to be taught, and it's something I have a hard time getting my head around, that I'm a teacher up here trying to teach. And for the life of me, I don't want to fail that, but I'll do the best I can to instruct the best possible way possible. But we come in here to learn, and this is a textbook. It has been said before, this book is 1/3 history, it is 1/3 law, and it is 1/3 prophecy. Prophecy of things that's already have come to pass to prove that the prophecy exists. We're taught in this book how to be better husbands. We're taught in this book how to be better wives. We're taught in this book how to be better leaders in society. We're taught and how to understand, to execute, and go about our life, and being happy in what we plant, being happy in what we build, and how to do so. If you'll look over in Ecclesiastes, like I was talking about, I'll give you an example. Ecclesiastes chapter 2. Verse 3, Solomon says, I sought in my own heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainting my heart with wisdom, to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was that good for the sons of men, which they should do under the heaven all the days of their life. I made great works. I builded my houses. I planted me vineyards. I made my gardens and orchards, and I planted trees in them of all kinds of fruit. I made me pools of water so therein to water the wood that brings forth trees. I got servants, maidens, and had servants born in my house. I had great possessions of great and small cattle. I gathered me also silver and gold, peculiar treasures of kings of provinces. I got me men singers, women singers, delighted in the musical instruments. And if you look at verse 24, there's nothing better for a man than he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. For that is our duty. In verse 26, for God gives to a man that is good in his sight knowledge and joy, but to the sinner he gives travail, troubles, and heaps them upon his head. So we work hard under the sun. And it's teaching us to be not only laborers under the sun. If we look at Ephesians 5, gives us insight into how to be husbands and wives. Wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands. So maybe we should stick with a smaller deck, not build so much larger deck. Do we have to cover it, honey? Submit. But husbands, love your wives. Verse 25, husbands, love your wives. Love your wives. My wife wants a deck covered, then I'm certainly going to work hard to do so. So I'm going to ask, if you'll flip over to 2 Timothy 3, I'm going to touch several scriptures really quickly to try to get my point across. 2 Timothy 3, 16 and 17. All scripture is given by inspiration of God. God therefore inspired this to be in the book. It's profitable for doctrine, teaching us the law, for reproof and for correction, for how to live, for instruction in righteousness, that a man might be made perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. 1/3 of this is history. Look at Genesis 48. And as we go there, I'm going to point out, even Mr. Jeff Noggle touched base on the history in this book that shows the very beginning. In the beginning was God, and God was with the Word, and the Word was God. All things were created through Him, by Him. That is the very beginning of everything that we can study our textbook to clearly understand. And 48, the history in here, verses 26, when Jacob came to bless Ephraim and Manasseh, he blessed them, and he said, bless the lads, in verse 16, and let my name be on them. And his name was Israel, and let them grow into a multitude, into verse 16. 19, he said, his father refused and said, you've crossed your hands on him, basically, and I know it is my son, he told him, I know it. He also shall become a people. He also shall be great, but truly his younger brother shall be greater than he. His seed shall become a multitude of nations. These two sons were blessed. One as a great people, another as a great nation, a multitude of nations. And upon those two grandsons, they were given the equal inheritance in verse 5 as Reuben and Simon, as Jacob's sons. So upon them was given the name Israel. That's our history. That covers 1/3 of what's in this textbook. Another third of this is covered through law. And it's funny because the laws are replete in here. And it's not only the law, food laws in Leviticus 11 that help us understand what we should eat and what we should not eat. What's healthy for us and what's not healthy for us. What we should be raising and how we should be raising. How we should rotate crops in our field. How we should give our field time to rest and replenish itself. It's covered in here as law. It's not only covered in here as law. Exodus 20, you have the 10 Commandments governing us individually. Leviticus 23, it talks about the Sabbaths and the feast of the Sabbath. We're taught the law. 1/3 of this book. Leviticus 24, if you'll turn over there. In 21, here's an example in verse 21 of 24th chapter of Leviticus. And he that kills a beast, he shall restore it. And he that kills a man, he shall be put to death. You shall have one manner of law, as well for the stranger, as well for your own country. For I am the eternal, your God. One manner of law for everyone governed on the world, around the world. One manner of law. That's 1/3 of this book. That's 1/3 of our textbook. The other 1/3 of our textbook is covered through prophecy. And we have in Zechariah 14, if you turn over there. I always thought Zechariah a very unique chapter in discussing Christ's return. And this clearly is written out as Christ's return. There's no way in any way you could argue with it. And in verse 16 it says, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King of the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So, the Feast of Tabernacles is covered in the law. That's prophecy. We're going to be teaching the Feast of Tabernacles into the millennium after Christ returns. Who are we going to be teaching it to? The rest of the population left on this world. Let me touch one more prophecy here. Revelation 21. One through 4. Is it 1 through 4? Yes. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of the heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. And God himself shall be with them and be their God. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. There shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Prophecy. Now, we've established 1/3 of this book is history. 1/3 of this book is law, and 1/3 of this book is prophecy. Now, this is our textbook. I mean, it's our textbook. It's teaching us as humans how to live. It's teaching us how to be good husbands, teaching wives how to be good wives. It's teaching us how to farm. It's teaching us how to garden. It's teaching us how to build, teaching us when to garden, when to farm, when to build. It teaches us in Proverbs how to get along with our neighbors, how to look at the rest of the people in the world. And the people in the world. Prophecy says Christ is going to return. And keep studying our book. For 1,000 years, Christ is going to reign on this world with human beings still alive. Zechariah 14 says, those that do not go up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles in due season will not receive rain. Or if they don't get rain, humans won't survive. Our duty in here as first fruits is going to be to teach the world tomorrow. When Christ returns, it's going to be our duty to teach the rest of the humans that survive through the tribulations. There are presently as of this morning, I checked Google, there are presently 8.1 billion people on this world. I can't get my head around that. 8.1. If approximately 1/3 of the population of this world survives after the tribulation, that leaves approximately 2.2 billion people left. That's B with a boy. Billion people left on this earth. Human beings. We prove ourselves worthy, it will be our responsibility to teach from this textbook. I went to school, I learned English, math, physics, chemistry, learned music. A lot of the teaching in school, even this weekend, I mean, it's Easter and colored eggs and chasing after the goddess Astarte or Ashtaroth, false teaching, that teaching will have to be corrected. We will have to teach from this textbook. Well, I think about it a lot. We may have a history class over here, someone teaching history. This history, the history of the world. Can you imagine that somebody that lived in, even after the millennium, was resurrected, somebody that lived in the 1100s that did not know what happened to the rest of the world and they're resurrected, they're going to have to be taught. We're trying to qualify to be those teachers. We're trying to qualify to be those leaders. Somebody that's good with history, understands history, clearly, and I like history, but I don't study history. For a lineman, I'm building a pretty good deck. I mean, I'm not a carpenter, but for a lineman, I'm building a pretty good deck. I'm really proud of myself. My wife might not think so. I hope she does. I'm trying to do it to make her happy. But, and for a lineman, I've made a pretty nice flower bed. I'm not a horticulturist or a landscaper by any means, but I'm trying really hard. But in my field as a lineman and understanding structural integrity or structural engineering out on poles, I would love to work with somebody like Job, who was considered a great engineer in his time, building bridges and what have you, and buildings. Or even somebody like Noah that constructed an ark. He was also considered a great engineering mind of his time. I'd be great to work with them in the millennium. To build. Those of you that have skills or understand the verbiage of law will obviously be teaching some of the law that's written in this book. If one of this neighbor's cattle got out and gored another neighbor's cattle, then it's obvious that, you'd be teaching, well, this is what you should do. You should help replace the one that got injured. It was your cattle that did it. Teaching the law and the verbiage of the law. We have a duty beyond just what we're doing from day to day. Building decks, planting gardens, going to work. We have a duty when we come into this classroom to learn. It's going to be given to some of us to teach tomorrow. 2 Timothy 3 again. Verse 16, all scripture is given by inspiration, which comes from God. If he didn't want it in this book, it didn't go in. If he wanted it in this book, this textbook for us to learn, there's nothing anybody could do to keep it from being in here. It's profitable for doctrine, for instruction, for teaching, for law, for reproof, for correction on how to get along with everyone else in this world. For the right ways to live according to his law. For instruction in righteousness, that we can teach others. Christ is going to return. He's going to set his kingdom up on this world in Jerusalem, the capital of this world. It will be given to us to teach. Isaiah 30. Isaiah talks a lot of vision and had a lot of vision on the world tomorrow, even discussing that a lamb would lay down with a lion and both would eat hay, grass. It's incredible when you try to get your head around it. But what gets me is in Isaiah 30, verse 19, for the people shall dwell in Zion at Jerusalem. You shall weep no more. He will be very gracious unto you at the voice of your cry. When he shall hear it, he will answer you. And though the Lord give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, shall not your teachers be removed into a corner anymore. But your eyes shall see your teachers, and your ears shall hear a word behind you, saying, this is the way, walk you in it, when you turn to your right and when you turn to your left. It is going to be given to you to teach. 63 years of marriage anniversary coming up. Wow. That's a great instructional teaching capability that you have for young couples when Christ returns. How to get, it's incredible. I could sit at your feet and listen every day. All I want to do is make my wife happy. And you have to tell me how. Mm-hmm. History buffs, no knowledge, can give it and pass it to the world. It kind of gets me after this, the bridge in Baltimore that got ran into, Francis Scott Key. I wonder how many people actually know who Francis Scott Key is. Not very many right now. Young people in this world. Wrote our national anthem, sat in that bay and watched the bombing for 25 hours. History. Yet shall not your teachers be removed into a corner anymore. False teaching will be done away with. Just because you're teaching the truth, now nobody wants to hear it. If you do, try to teach it. That's why there's so few of us in this room. There's probably less than 1%, way less than one. I would 0.1% that know God's law today in this world. The saints resurrected that will help teach tomorrow might bring it to 1%. This world will need teachers. It will need instructional proof on how to live. Don't ever think that you don't have something to offer. I've never thought I did. But all I can do is try. This is the way. Walk in it.